All right, I'm going to call to order the April 28th, 2020 regularly scheduled board meeting of the Richland 2 Board of Trustees. If I can please have a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chair, I move that we convene into executive session to discuss to discuss the student appeals.
Motion's been made by Dr. Caution Parker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Agostini. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, if we can please vote.
Dr. Holmes, did you receive a pop-up?
I just got it.
Okay. Motion is unanimous.
All right, motion passes unanimous. We'll now convene into executive session. I want to reconvene the April 28th, 2020 regularly scheduled board meeting for the Richland 2 Board of Trustees, where we've just returned from executive session to discuss the matters mentioned in the motion to go into executive session. Ms. Sherman, if you would please reflect that we convened executive session at 6:21. The motion was made by Ms. Mackey. It was seconded by Dr. Caution Parker, and the vote was unanimous to come out of executive session. We will now have the inspirational moment and the Pledge of Allegiance. For the inspirational moment, we will have a moment of silence. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I can now have a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move to approve the agenda for the April 28th, 2020 Richland 2 School Board of Trustees meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Can I have a second?
Second.
Megan.
Seconded by Dr. Holmes. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, if we can take the vote.
Dr. Johnson, did you receive a pop-up? Motion carries 6 yes, 1 no.
All right, motion carries 6 yes, 1 no. With the approval of the agenda, we will now move on to the consent agenda. If I can please have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini.
to comply with policy BEDG, and the quote is, "These minutes will include but not be limited to the following: date, time, and place of the meeting." I move to amend the minutes from the April 21st, 2020 special call board meeting to reflect all board members attended via Zoom due to the global pandemic, and to amend the minutes from the March 31st, 2020 board meeting to reflect that Mr. Manning and Mr. Shad were present, and that Mrs. Mackey, Dr. Elkins, Dr. Holmes, Dr. Caution Parker, and Ms. Agostini attended telephonically.
Ms. Agostini, would you clarify that you want to make that motion to approve the consent agenda with those edits?
Yes, and to approve the consent agenda with the amendments.
Okay, so Ms. Agostini has made a motion to approve the consent agenda with the edits as she stated. Is there a second?
Second.
Did you say second, Dr. Elkins Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Elkins Johnson has seconded that motion. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Lindsay
Ms. Agostini?
I just want to reiterate that this is these changes are to comply with policy BEDG, and that it does state that we need to provide a location for these board meetings, which we haven't been doing so. So that would be to comply with our policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Agostini. Is there any further discussion? With that, we'll take the vote.
Motion is unanimous.
All right, motion passes unanimously. With that, we will move on to our item 6.1, the executive session items, student appeals. If I can please have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini?
I move to uphold the district's decision, and upon readmittance, all students attend Blythewood Academy for 90 days.
The motion's been made by Ms. Agostini. Do I have a second?
Mrs. Agostini, can you repeat your motion, please?
Yes, to uphold the district's decision for students 1, 2, and 3, for all 3 students. And upon readmittance, all students attend Blythewood Academy for 90 days.
Okay, so again, I have the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Elkins Johnson. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll have the vote.
Motion is unanimous.
All right, motion passes unanimous. We will now, item 6.2. There's no need for that item as there was no other discussion in executive session. We'll move on to item 7, 7.1, approval of the homeschool application. If I can please have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini?
I move to approve the homeschool application presented to us tonight on April 28th, 2020.
Motion's been made by Ms. Agostini. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Teresa, Dr. Holmes.
Dr. Holmes, seconded by Dr. Holmes. Is there any discussion? All right, with no discussion, we'll have the vote.
Motion is unanimous.
All right, motion unanimous. Item 7.2, policy BE board meetings. If I can please have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey,
I move to approve policy BE board meetings.
can you, Ms. Mackey, I need something more specific on the motion.
Oh, hang on.
It's already an approved policy. I think the.
Yes, hang on.
Sorry.
Let me open it. Yeah, I move to approve policy BE board meetings, specifically the board to temporarily allow the board chair and superintendent to change the start time of board meetings as needed while under a state of emergency.
All right, the motion's been made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Elkins Johnson?
I would like to have a discussion about this. I know that the policy states that meetings should be approved by the majority of the board. So I'm just wondering why the need to have the board chair and the superintendent to schedule meetings. Why can't we all do that as a team to make sure that it fits everyone's schedule and time?
I am open to ensuring that everyone is available for a change in time. During this COVID emergency, it creates an undue burden. We have staff that have to be in the office, and we have other schedules with board members, and that's the reason why we've asked to change it. So I'm definitely willing to work with the board to make sure everyone's available, but this will give us the flexibility to allow for the meetings to be flexible during this period of emergency.
And I'm just wondering, with the flexibility, why can't the policy remain the same? And if you guys decide to come up with dates, you send dates out to the entire board and then see what the majority is okay with.
It's not about scheduling new meetings, it's about flexibility on time for existing meetings.
So would that be a problem for the time to remain the same as it has always been, or is there an issue with that?
There is an issue. As I stated, we have staff that have to be in R2, I2, and it creates an undue burden for staff that have to be available during the evening time. We now live stream the meetings, and so they are available. The reason we normally set the meetings at 6:30 is so that people have time to get off work and come in. Now that we're live streaming the meetings, people have access to this anywhere they are. So it doesn't reduce ability for folks to have access to our meetings. We've actually increased availability, and this gives us the ability to be more flexible so
Mr.
that we
Manning?
can accommodate all of our staff.
Okay.
Ms. Agostini?
Mr. Manning, and you just sort of highlighted my point, and that's for the people that, as you had said, that, you know, we start at 6:30 so people can get off of work, but still, you know, people are getting off of work and they want to go home and settle in and feed the kids dinner. And in times like this, one of the things that the experts continue to say is, you know, have a schedule and be consistent. And I really do respect, and I'm so grateful, you know, for our staff that's staying late. Hopefully they can be compensated in other ways, like sleep in tomorrow. But just for tonight's meeting, we've been told 3 or 4 different times for tonight's meeting start. And I would just like for us to be consistent and have this board meeting start at 6:30.
All right. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Holmes?
you're saying, let me make sure that I'm clear. You're saying that this is just a temporary fix to help accommodate the R2, I2 staff that has to come in. Is that correct?
That is the primary purpose, yes.
And so after we finish the pandemic, it would go back to what it originally was. Is that correct also?
That is correct. It is only during the state of emergency. Once the state of emergency is lifted, we would revert back to the original policy.
Okay, so it does effectively help the people that have to come in and do the meetings at a later time. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, other discussion? All right, we'll take the vote at this time.
Motion carries 5 yes, 2 no.
All right, so the motion carries 5 yes, 2 no. With that, we will now move on to item 8.1, update from our superintendent on COVID-19. Dr. Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the board. Thank you all for approving a temporary change to the board policy BE, which will allow members of our staff that are here at night to go home and be with their families as well. Our security officers, our communications department and staff. Many of us are here all day and have been here all day today in preparation for board meetings. And so this gives us an opportunity to get home and be with our families as well. So we appreciate your flexibility in allowing us to have that time while we are in this state of emergency with COVID-19. I just have a few things to share with you as it relates to the COVID-19 update. Again, before I share, let me also state that my appreciation for the board's continued support of administration while we are operating in this unprecedented time. Things change quite quickly. And as Ms. Ruth had shared earlier in the year, earlier in March, that information is typically only good for about 24 to 48 hours. And so things are very fluid. But with the help of the board and with our Richland 2 community, our teachers and all, we've been able to do and accomplish so much because of everyone's willingness to be patient and flexible. On April 22nd, the governor announced that schools will be closed for the remainder of the school year, which we were all in anticipation of, and we had shared that information with you that that announcement would be coming that week. He announced that, made that announcement on a Wednesday, sharing that schools will be closed for the remainder of the week. E-learning and remote learning, however, will continue, has continued in our school district, and as you are aware, our second through 12th grade students all have Chromebooks. We have roughly about 23,000 Chromebooks that have been deployed out to our students. That includes the students who had already had Chromebooks in middle and high schools. And then the second through fifth graders, I think, was an additional about 8,000 that brought us to about 23,000. So again, I say that to say how fortunate we are in Richland 2 to be able to provide that for our students. And we should not take that lightly, that we have the ability to do that for the students of our community, and so that they can continue to receive a high quality educational experience in this current condition. The school year will end as scheduled on June 5th. However, we'll be finalizing grades for our seniors on Thursday, May the 14th. We have some flexibility at the end of the year with the last 2 weeks of school to determine how and what we will be doing, whether or not we will be continuing with instruction or we'll be using that time to pull together a team and a plan to begin to have materials brought back into our schools, and of course to give our teachers an opportunity to grade some of those materials and to look over those packets from the students who have been using an instructional package. We are currently developing plans for our summer schools as well as our summer camps. And of course, summer school will more than likely be virtual for all of our students, which a good portion of the summer programs have already been virtual in the past. And so we'll be putting those plans and developing those plans and then sharing that with everyone as soon as they are complete. We are using multiple task force to come up with plans for major events and processes throughout the year. So we have established some different task force around the district. The first task force that we established is the graduation task force that many of you have probably already heard of. I would like to say in our call today with Superintendent Molly Spearman, she shared and reiterated that the governor has given us a special exemption to social distancing, but not a special exemption to allow us to have graduation in person if the district or if districts choose so. However, if you take an opt for the special exemption, you must adhere to the strict guidelines of social distancing. And so it's going to be very important that as we're preparing for graduation, we keep that in mind. The task force has been doing a phenomenal job. They've already had one meeting. That task force is made up of our high school principals, student activity directors, school counselors, student reps from each high school, 2 student reps from each high school, representatives from operations, security, from health, and as well as communication. This is also including a logistics specialist from Fort Jackson. I would like to thank General Beagle. I gave him a call and asked him if he would assist us with that. And so we do have a logistics specialist from the fort that will help us. And we would share this information along with our parent advisory council once we come up with a recommendation from our graduation task force. We are looking at all venue options first, and then we will consider what the logistics will be. And so whether the venue options are here at our high school in our school district, whether it's another location around the city, there are multiple venue options that are on the table right now. We have a task force that is focusing on the end of the year. What's the processes are gonna be for the collection of textbooks, library books, allowing students to come pick up their personal items, teachers picking up personal items, and also the return of personal items, school or district items to the schools. We have a task force that is focusing on our budget, specifically looking at the CARES or the federal relief fund that we will be receiving from the federal government and how best to allocate those funds. Those funds are based off of our Title I allocations, and so we do have a projection of what that allocation would be. And so we're going to have a budget task force that will be specifically looking at that, as well as a task force that's focusing on the reopening of the schools and what the logistics are going to be around reopening schools, when that may be. And of course, we're anxiously waiting to hear what the expected opening of school dates would be, whether we would follow our calendar as outlined, where we'll have the option to start school a little earlier, to shorten the window of summer, whether it's going to be pushed back. We don't know if it's going to be brick and mortar or virtual. So we're gonna come up with scenarios for all of those possibilities in that task force. And then we have a task force that's focusing on special education. And how we're meeting the needs of our special education student population, and ensure that we are providing them with a premier educational experience as well. You all are all aware of our meal distributions. They have resumed daily meal distributions that started back on this past Monday. The locations, schools and community and times, they are the same as they were prior to spring break. In March, we distributed 31,661 meals were given out in March. So far in April, that number is 85,574 meals so far in April. And as of this point, we have distributed 117,235 meals throughout our district. And we're going to be continuing our current schedule through June the 5th. Mr. Chair, members of the board, that concludes my update, COVID-19 update. And if there are any questions, I'm prepared to answer them to my best ability.
Questions or comments?
Dr. Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have one question. You said that they had the graduation task force already came up with the social distance guidelines. Is there any way that we could see the guidelines, just not the logistics of what we plan to do, but what are the guidelines? Can we have a copy of that? Is that something we can see?
Yes, ma'am. We had the social distancing. Our graduation task force has not come up with guidelines. We are following the guidelines and recommendations from the State Department of Education. But yes, we can share those recommendations from the State Department of Education as relates to if you are going to have an in-person graduation with the board. And I think Mr. Price is on this call. I've forwarded that information to him for him to share with the task force, and we'll be happy to share that information with you all as well.
Thank you.
Dr. Davis.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Mackey.
Yeah, Dr. Davis, I appreciate you're keeping us updated with regard to trying to continue to educate and feed our students. I know one of the things I just wanted to mention that I appreciate that you're doing, and I follow on social media, so I noticed that you're constantly implementing Wi-Fi zones at different areas throughout the district, and I've seen some of the signs as I pass different areas. So I appreciate. I know that you've also gone to social media and you've expressed the need for broadband, universal broadband access, in this country, period. But I appreciate that you all are sharing Wi-Fi zones throughout the district for students who need to access it. I just wanted to say that I appreciate that and to make mention of that.
Thank you. The Wi-Fi zones are they're not as highly used as we anticipated, which is a good thing. Our students do have access to Wi-Fi in our school district zone, but we have made that available for students should they need to have spots of access to Wi-Fi throughout the district. So whether that's on buses and whether that's kind of increasing the range of Wi-Fi at all of our buildings and sites, we've deployed many measures to ensure that our students have connectivity. And if there should be someone that's having an issue, of course, they should reach out to us here at the district office so that we can assist them.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Other board members, questions or comments? Dr. Davis, thank you again for your staff. I know y'all are working tirelessly through lots of details that are ever changing. So thank you all very much. Next, item 9.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Shad was trying to talk and I had him muted and then he unmuted and I muted him back. So I apologize. Mr. Shad.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Shad, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. Dr. Davis.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if you texted Ms. Roof and told her to make sure that I was muted. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But seriously, thank you all so much for providing us this information and, of course, being responsive to the needs of every student in our district, especially with the meals. I did take note that in March alone, which was about half of the month, we served about 35,000 meals. We're almost done with April, and that jumped to 85,000, which was somewhat alarming. I know it's a few more days than what we had to work with in March. Any idea or any guesses as to why the number jumped so high, especially given, us having spring break in April as well? Although I know we did, distribute it even during the spring break, or right before the spring break time, to make sure that they still were fed. But any ideas to whether there was a greater need there? I'm not sure.
Well, Mr. Shad, I can only speak anecdotally on that, but I would, if I had to take a guess, I'd say there's probably a combination of several reasons. One, if you have been to the grocery store lately, you have noticed that food prices are going up quite a bit. Pack of bacon is like $10. I mean, it's real. And so that's not necessarily saying that that's the reason, but I think people are should take advantage of the opportunity to, if we can provide a breakfast and lunch for students, as opposed to exhausting their resources, if that may be the case, regardless of what their resource level may be, whether they are a student who typically receives free or reduced lunch, or they're a student who full pay lunch. We as a school district, and I applaud you all for supporting the district in this effort. We are attempting, as I shared with one parent, to feed a community. And irregardless of what your status may be, our responsibility during this time is to do our best to help feed our community. And if we could take one less burden off of a parent, regardless of what their means are, that's something that that we are able to do. And so I think the board has to be commended for of giving that direction and allowing administration to really push forward with that. But I think it's the food prices. I think there's some scarcity for things. Sometimes bread is hard to find. We've gone to the grocery store and there's not any bread. Rice. I mean, it's amazing some of the things that are hard to come across right now. And so this is a guaranteed meal without much effort other than to either get to the location or be at the destination drop-off spots.
Thank you. And just to put a final note on there too, I would just encourage the members of the public and of course my fellow board members, just drive by Harvest Hope Food Bank and look at the long lines that are outside there trying to get food, and that'll put a poignant pin on how things are right now. So I'm extremely grateful that our district is doing it. And it's a very serious matter, and I hope that we are continuing to address that. So thank you very much.
Yes, that's a great point, Mr. Shad and Dr. Davidson. I'm sure unemployment numbers are climbing as well as
Yes.
not have work opportunities. Maybe, I don't know for sure, but we continue to see the unemployment rise. All right, did I miss anybody else with the mute issues? All right, item 9.1, draft agenda for May 12th, Dr. Davis.
Yes, sir. If you take an opportunity to look at the draft agenda, on the draft agenda, we do have this times set for 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. for the beginning of public session. Mr. Manning and I will have an opportunity to get the times out to you all to find out the best time that will suit the board for our May 12th board meeting. We'll have our call to order. We'll have our executive session items. Right now, only thing we have on our executive session items will be our student appeals. We'll have our inspirational moment and ask for the approval of the current agenda, followed by the approval of our consent agenda. We'll have voting items from executive session, again, which will be student appeals or admissions to adult ed requests, which have been, as you saw this month, this board meeting, there have not been any. We have under new business, no action requested. We're going to be talking a little bit about board priorities and employee survey results. This is relating to the budget specifically. We'll have a report on the military community liaison. Will be a very brief report from our military community liaison. We've been working very well and close with the military as we've been dealing with COVID-19 as well. And then we'll share some info. Again, I'll bring you an update on a COVID-19 update. There is a policy that we need your approval for. The suspension of a policy, which is policy IKA, grading assessment / systems. This policy will allow us to be able to issue elementary students a grade of pass, not pass, as opposed to numeric grades, because right now stated in our board policy, we are required to give a numeric grade, and the State Department has instructed us to, we've decided not to give a numeric grade for our elementary students, only middle and high school. So this doesn't impact middle or high, but it does specifically impact elementary. We'll then present you with the draft agenda for the May 26th board meeting, ask for the approval of that agenda, and then we'll have board and superintendent comments and adjournment.
All right, board members, questions or comments on the agenda? All right, we'll move on to item 10.1. If I can please have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move to approve the draft agenda items for May 12th, 2020 for the Richland 2 School Board of Trustees meeting.
Motion's been made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Shad. Is there any discussion? We'll have the vote.
Motion carries 6 yes, 1 no.
All right, motion passes 6-1, 6 yes, 1 no. Next, we have board and superintendent comments. So I will try to remember the right order here. Dr. Elkins Johnson, start on, you would normally be to my left. I'll start with you.
No comments, thank you. Everyone just be safe.
Thank you, Mr. Shad.
Continue to practice physical distancing, but remain social. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Holmes.
Yes, I was glad that Dr. Davis, thank you to you and your staff for taking the seniors' consideration into grade about their grading, because many of them have to go off to the military and also off to secondary school. So I appreciate the task force that took that into consideration. I'd also like to say good luck to all of our seniors. I know that this has been an unusual year for you all, but I've seen many creative ways for you to celebrate your day. I pray for you, and I know you're going to do well, but good luck to you all on that. And also, thank you, Dr. Davis and the Richland 2 staff, because it takes a lot of work to keep the ship running under these kind of circumstances. And I just want everybody to know that's behind the scene, that we appreciate you. Also to our teachers, cafeteria workers, our bus drivers, our security, everybody, faculty and staff that is continuously working at home. I know how hard it is to do all of this and manage your home life. I just wanted you to know that I appreciate everything that you are doing. And to my fellow board members, I want you all to stay safe and be healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Caution Parker.
To Dr. Davis, you are doing a commendable job, and my support is behind you 110%. And kudos to your staff and the teachers and everyone else in the district working hard to make sure that we're taking care of our children and that teaching and learning is continuing. And everyone be safe.
Thank you. And then Ms. Mackey.
I won't be redundant. I just echo Dr. Caution Parker and Dr. Holmes' comments vehemently. And bless you all for tuning in as we are continuing to share updates and decisions during this very trying time. Y'all be safe and be blessed. Have a good evening.
Ms. Agostini.
Thank you. I wanted to just express tremendous gratitude and thanks to all those on the front line and behind the scenes who are fighting off this pandemic, and also express gratitude to all of our Richland 2 employees for their flexibility, their creativity, and their compassion in keeping our students engaged and the priority. Stay safe, be healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, and to our community. If you are not aware, National Teacher Appreciation Week is May 4th through the 8th, of this year. Teachers are likely feeling more appreciated now than ever before. So this is our opportunity to show teachers how much we truly, truly appreciate them. Teaching is a special calling. Indeed, great teachers are called to teach. That is why it is so important that we show them appreciation and show them appreciation for their work. We salute you and we say thank you. On National Teacher Appreciation Day, Tuesday, May 5th, Richland 2 will announce its 2020-2021 Teacher of the Year. So please stay tuned for more information regarding that announcement. Also next week is National School Nurse Day. And our nurses also are doing a phenomenal job on the front line and making sure that our employees are being healthy, that we're doing the screenings and checks and all the things that they bring to the table to ensure that our students and our school staffs are healthy. And so on Wednesday, May 6th, 2020-2021, the District Nurse of the Year will be announced. And so check the district's website and social media accounts for these announcements. I want to say a special congratulations to Principal Kristen Eubanks and her staff at Bridge Creek Elementary School. They've won the South Carolina ASCD Whole Child Award. So the South Carolina ASCD officials said that it was evident that during a school visit that Bridge Creek takes a student-centered approach to address the whole school, the whole community, and the whole child. Bridge Creek is scheduled to present at the South Carolina ASCD Whole Child Conference in the fall, and the school will be receiving a $2,500 grant for the purpose of implementing other goals related to the tenets of the Whole Child Initiative. Recently, U.S. News and World Report ranked 3 of our high schools in the top 30 schools in South Carolina. To my knowledge, this is the first time we've ever had 3 high schools ranked in the top 30 schools in the state. Spring Valley and Blythewood are in the top 20, and Ridgeview rounded out the top 30. So congratulations to those schools as well, and to those communities, and to 2 Spring Valley High School seniors are also finalists in the 2020 Presidential Scholars Program. Students are selected based on broad academic achievement, academic and artistic scholarships in the visual arts, the performing arts, or creative writing, or outstanding scholarships and accomplishments in career and technology education fields. Winners will be announced next month, so let's hold tight and us all give our collective good vibes to those 2 students, so that maybe one of them will be, or both will be awarded this prestigious recognition and award. Choice 2 begins on Friday, May 1st. Applications will be accepted online through May 29th. Only students residentially zoned for Richland 2 are eligible to apply and participate. Parents must provide transportation for their children to and from schools. And it is time for the U.S. Census 2020, and our district and community needs everyone to participate by providing basic information about your household. Complete the census either online, by phone, or by mail. The census helps determine resources for many different aspects of our community, including our schools. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Thank you. Thank you, board members. Again, don't want to restate everything that was said, but we have a lot of heroes in all of this. Also, just wanted to do a quick update. We had approved at a few meetings back to restructure some of our bond work, and Dr. Caution Parker and I signed documents today that save the district actually above what we expected, over $4 million in savings from restructuring. So there's always some silver lining to every crisis. So we appreciate that opportunity to save those funds, and appreciate the board support and Harry and the staff and that restructuring program. So thank you all. With that, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move to approve the April 28th, 2020 meeting of the Richland 2 School Board of Trustees. I moved to adjourn. Did I say approve? I meant adjourn.
Okay, I'll accept adjournment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We're now adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Good night.
Good night.